there's nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me away to go. Leave me, run like you never did. No, believe me, run like you never run before.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast in association with Scottish Rugby Blog. How are you all doing tonight?
I am fine this morning, Craig. How are you this afternoon, Mark?
I'm doing
Seriously, in my notes, I have stars there saying, remember not to say tonight or evening. I've even got here, I'm Craig, and joining me today, exclamation mark.
Do we think it's a bit presumptuous of our viewership's knowledge and understanding of the creative process, Craig, that maybe we're just diminishing them slightly by continuing to mislead them regarding the timeframes?
Yes.
Now, John
I think
Anderson.
what John's trying to say is, up the Kens we record at night.
We're sitting here recording the body.
I got told off for telling people it was tonight, but I think I'm going to have to just. But then the favourite bit of the podcast is all over, and then that's it. Then we have to just talk about Scottish rugby and what issues
Who
that.
told you off? Was it McGinty?
I think it was actually Rory. Rory, we miss you, Rory, because we've not seen you for a wee while. And
if it was McGinty, I was going to get tore in, but no for the boss man.
Oh, if McGinty told me to do something, I'd be doing it all the time.
I'm not going to do that. Well, you're clearly not doing it all the time. He has told you to do something. And you get bloody one job right.
Well, I'm Craig, and joining me tonight, whenever you want to be, are three of the most entitled Scottish rugby fans you've ever met. Tonight we have John, Mark, and Allan. Good evening, gentlemen. Good morning, gentlemen. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Could we come up with a new a new intro song, couldn't there, regarding the time frames? You know, just insert time frame here and off you go. And then it's fine. You can just say what you want.
Yeah, that's true. I could just say it and it would just come up in the anyway. That's the
anyway. It's beer o'clock somewhere, Craig. So let's crack on.
John's on the beers tonight, so expect some nuclear hot takes. We're all set for it. I don't know if Alan's on the whiskies. He's awfully quiet.
I was just posting the link for watching along, but I'm having a full whiskey.
We almost all swore there at the measure that Allan has. For those that aren't watching the live stream, Allan has got himself a tumbler of whiskey, and I have to say that's cracking.
I will reassure you that it's whiskey and soda because it will really upset my reflux if I don't have some soda water in it tonight. So
it's a whiskey. There we go. Nice. That's how I used to do my course. And Mark seems to be. I don't know if that's Iron Brew or what is it, Mark?
Yeah.
Or is it rosé?
My customary Iron Brew, sugar free. But I've actually, rather than rushing off to pour a wine for the Patreon, I've actually pre-poured it. So I've got a glass of wine sitting here waiting.
Mark doesn't trust himself.
Nice and warm.
Yeah, well, I'm the only one that's. Rory used to love it when I started to drink. No, it was Allan. I think it was either Allan or Rory that used to love it when I was drinking. But unfortunately, I've just gone half it. I'm half it, man. So I'm just sitting with the evil Diet Coke that everyone seems to think that either puts weight on you, doesn't put weight on you, gives you cancer, doesn't give you cancer, whatever it is. Here's the Diet Coke.
It depends what time of day you drink it, Craig.
Absolutely.
Please don't start me in the nonsense on social media about aspartame, because I'm not. It's too early in the pod for my blood pressure to go up with that much.
So how well doing? What you all been up to? Because I know John's been getting himself jagged up today. Have you not?
Yeah. I had the flu jabby today, so yeah. I've yet to discover my superpowers, but I have got some tinfoil nearby just in case I start doing the 5Gs.
That's really to see. John has realised that, when you start to lose your hair and you go grey in the beard, it's time to get jagged up for flu season. And it's just the way it is, unfortunately. I'm not going to mention anything about the other two lads that are here because I'm not going to make any sort of assumption about their age. I just know John far too well that I like to take his age. But I haven't booked mine, and I have to say it ruined my new year last year. So I must go and get my flu jab because
if you have the opportunity to get a flu jab, do so, please.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, it is definitely coming into flu season in the hospitals. So yeah, get a jab because even if you get it, it'll be less. Even if you get the flu after you get the jab, it'll be less bad. Please. We don't
There's a resident doctor coming in with it. Come on now, that's ladies and gentlemen, NHS. Mind you, are you still in the NHS, John?
No. I'm well beyond there now. I'm in the charitable sector these days.
Yeah. Well, let's see if you're charitable about Tunia later on. So the news. No, actually, I have to do this bit because again, talking about our dear friend Rory, who we miss and we want to see on the pods very soon if we can. Our podcast is part of the sports social network. Don't forget to give us a follow or a like on your favourite podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to give us a follow on social media. You can find all the links on our site, www.scottishrugbyblog.co.uk. It's well worth going on to the Scottish Rugby Blog. There's lots of good articles, and I think there's a fair few. There might be a couple of articles written about the Autumn Nations, which might be worth having a look at. If you're listening on Apple and like what we do, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you would like to hear more content and want to support what we do, you can subscribe to our Patreon from just £3 a month, plus the VAT. And that gives you access to our super secret Facebook group and the second part of tonight's podcast, as well as Patreon exclusives. Now, the second part of this podcast is going to be all about the Autumn Nations and how we got on. And as we know, as we've just found out, Mark has got his red wine ready for that. Allan's already got himself a wee bit ahead of the game. John Anderson, is that Tennent's that we're drinking, John?
No, it's a non-denomination Spanish lager beer.
Nice. So just get yourselves ready because I'm sure I think there's a few tongue looseners being taken, so we'll wait and see how we get on. And
like that is what's going to cause the issue here, Craig. Let's be honest. There's no alcohol required for this to get loose.
Very true, but also in the Patreon section, we do let loose with a bit of the language as well, and also we have the patented Hands in the Ruck. Now, I tell you what, there is another rugby podcast that thinks it's the Scottish Rugby Podcast, but it's not, even though it advertises itself as that. And I think they should hang their heads in shame for trying to steal our podcast name. They don't have Hands in the Ruck, and they also don't have a section where a certain few people have a bit of a swear and tell everyone exactly what they think about many things, including Scottish rugby fans, and also weird and wonderful things about animals and sports equipment. So we will move on and talk about that in the Patreon when we. I was waiting to see if Allan would spit his whiskey out, but he's not going to do that tonight because it's whiskey and he doesn't like spitting it out. So So we'll move on to our news. It was the SRU AGM on Wednesday night. There's not much been going. It's been getting kind of drip fed over the last wee while. We've been hearing stories here, there, and everywhere. But it looks like all the talk of Townsend being released from his contract looks like we're going to be keeping him for a little while longer. It seems that the SRU have decided to adopt, well, if everyone really, really hates the coaches, and that doesn't matter whether that's in Scotland or the professional game, we are going to keep them. So, gentlemen, we always have a bit of a go at the AGM. Anything you want to let yourselves, apart from maybe Townsend? Yeah, okay, we'll go talk about Townsend. It looks like he's staying, guys. John, what do you think?
Well, I think for all the chat of Townsend heading off after the autumn, and we saw the kind of rumour mill going into overdrive, and there is a lot of ill feeling towards him at the moment. But unfortunately, and we all know this, for the SRU are, if nothing, they are tight, and there is no way in this God's green earth that they are going to hand a guy a contract. So let's be honest, let's be clear, it's till the end of the World Cup 2027. We've got him contracted till. There's no way they're going to do that in September and then pay out essentially 2 years of contract to a guy who's not on small money, when you've also got the optic of an organisation, as we're seeing at the AGM, they're suggesting the finances are better and they have improved, but we are still a loss-making organisation, and we will continue to be. The view is next year we might make a profit. Next year I might win the lottery as well, but the odds are not great. So it's a business decision. Now, I think the only out we have with this, right? I don't think the SRU are going to fire Townsend. I think that's very clear. I don't think Townsend's going to walk because he's too smart for that, unless he gets paid his contract, which the SRU are not going to do. The only out we have here is Red Bull. And if Newcastle want him in for next season, that's the only possibility we have. And we should be begging, borrowing, negotiating, making that happen if we can. But it does feel like the statement, and I'll let the guys come in on the statement, it does feel like there's some hidden meaning behind it, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think, first things first, Allan, I think we're looking at a worst case scenario if what John is saying is correct about, or his wish about Red Bull, etc., means he's going to go through the Six Nations. And that could be probably the death knell of him if we don't perform.
Yeah, I just feel that I think it's really a wasted opportunity because it's another wasted Six Nations. I don't think Townsend's the person to take us to the World Cup. I was chatting with a colleague who is Irish but thought that we should stick with Gregor Townsend because, we might lose what we've got. And I was like, what, we might continue to win nothing. And that's look, there's been a lot of rhetoric about Townsend. I've said some stuff as well. I think he has, it's not that he's been bad in the role. I just don't think he's the person to take us over the threshold that he's brought us to. So I think he should get our thanks, a firm handshake in his P45. That's my...
Yeah.
I do think, John, you're being a bit down on, the SRU and the only hope being Red Bull. There's 67,000 people go to Murrayfield when it's a sellout. Tenner from everyone, and that's over a year's salary for Gregor. 20 quid and 20 quid, and that's 2 years. We could pay off his, wave him off into the sunset. I'm up for 30 and could probably be persuaded for being in for 50. So I think we should try and get a headline out that Scottish Podcast tries to crowdfund Gregor Townsend's payoff.
Start it now, Alan. Get the website set up. Let's get a wee Just Giving going. and we'll raise money on behalf of the Gregor Townsend Relief Fund, and we'll call it that.
That might be something else.
Executive Relief Fund. Mark,
that would probably help him as well.
Mark, I haven't had a chance to see the statement. Did you get to see the statement?
No, I didn't. Just what the guys are posting about it and the headlines. I think I'll caveat all of this by saying I don't know how the contract situation works within the sports environment. So, I mean, I work as a contractor, and I'm contracted for X months, whatever, and they can still terminate me at any point during that period, right? So I'm guessing it's going to be different from that.
Yes.
But if you look at, if it was employment, if he was employed as a senior person, what we're looking at now is something that's called a compromise agreement. And what that's basically saying is he has our absolute full confidence, is the external statement. In the back room, they're saying, you don't have a place here anymore. You need to leave. We want you to leave. We're going to get all our lawyers in a room and we're going to discuss with you what an acceptable way of doing that is. That's why when you see chief executive is sacked from the company but gets £1 million in his pocket, it's because he wasn't sacked. They came to a compromise agreement. And what happens is when he leaves, the company don't badmouth him and he doesn't badmouth the company. And that's all legally drawn up. You've got 7 years or whatever it is. You have clauses that you can't discuss, NDAs, etc., etc. We could actually be in a similar position here. But the first and foremost thing, which is why we were even joking about it on our chat site, he has our full support, is usually a prelude to them in the press being sacked, but actually leaving voluntarily with a big fat check.
The only thing about that, Mark, is I don't think the SRU would use an NDA. I think they're too honourable for that.
By honourable, you mean stupid?
Well, no, I think they're overly fond of NDAs.
Yes.
Well, we'll do a bit more talking about this when we go over the Patreon side of things. One thing I would like to say is that one thing we do forget is that Gregor Townsend has been an incredible. He's done a great job for Scotland over a period of time. It is, I feel, his time to go, but he is. He has been an incredibly professional person, I feel, and I think he's been very, very good with everybody who interacts with him. And I certainly don't think some of the rhetoric that I've seen on social media, etc., being quite personal about the guy. I think we have to be careful or be aware that this is someone who has come into Scotland, maybe not under the best circumstances, if we remember correctly, but came into Scotland, did a great job with Glasgow, has come on, and he is a very, very good coach. I think he's just at this point where the cupboard is empty now of what can he do with the team. And when you get to that point where you have nothing else, that we feel nothing else to offer, I think it's time to make a move. But anyway, we'll move on to something less contentious. The announcement that World Rugby have confirmed trials of a 4.5 size ball to be used for women, with the same weight, aerodynamics, tech features that Gilbert put in all their balls, but they're going to use it for the HSBC Sevens tournaments. It's a fairly contentious one. Some of you may not know about it, but this has been a running a running commentary for years about making sure that giving women smaller balls to play on the rugby field with, and there are fairly strong views either way. Mark, you had a fairly strong view, or you got the wrath of me having no sleep and I was a bit grumpy last night.
I think it's pretty fair to say that my view was anything but strong. What I said was my immediate reaction was it seems like a good idea, but I'd seen one of the Irish women's rugby account on Blue Sky had a different opinion and was going to write an article about it. So I'd like to wait and see what they had to say, being A, women, and B, more heavily involved in the sport than me. I still think the same, and I think the kind of feedback we've been saying through the day with Johnny, our roving reporter, canvassing it, kind of backs that up. I don't think it's cut and dried by any stretch.
No, it definitely isn't. And John, both yourself and I are involved with women's rugby, or have been involved in women's rugby, etc. It's a difficult one because I know from my side of things, the women's teams I've been involved with have always just been fighting for parity against all the other teams within the clubs. And to come along and say, right, well, now you have to now go and buy us 25 to 30, different sized balls, etc. It's a difficult one. And also the fact that I think they want to be just left alone, left to play rugby, and to use, we have got age grade balls that come all the way through up to a certain level. So you do have size 3s, size 4s, but adults are generally using size 5s.
Well, this is it. And right. First of all, I think of all the issues we could pick out in women's sport, this is such a minuscule thing, right? I get that there's arguments about improving the spectacle. Well, actually, if anybody watched the Women's World Cup, they'll know the spectacle was bloody better than the men's anyway. Yeah. So get a grip, right? The game's in a good state in the women's game. Let's keep doing that. And that's with a full-size ball. The moment you start changing the game, where do you stop? Should we make the posts slower because the kicking's not as good? Should we change the rules so that they move it forward 20 yards before goal kicking? Should we buy different equipment? Should we make it uncontested scrums? Because why not? Because they're not as good at pushing, so we should definitely make that. And I'm being very facetious with this, clearly, right? I don't believe any of those things are accurate. I think this is such a dangerous precedent to set. The game of rugby is played with a size 5 ball. Adult rugby is played with a size 5 ball. The rules are the same for the women and the men and should be the same for the women and the men. That needs to continue. There should be no discrepancy from that. And I think I get that there is some feedback from certain people who are like, yeah, it'd be quite cool. Smaller ball, it doesn't fit in my hand. Well, there's plenty of scrum halves who are 5'7" in the men's game who the ball doesn't fit in their hand, in one hand. So, it's a game for all sizes and shapes. We need to keep the size 5.
I wonder how men's players would react to, professional men's players nowadays, would react to us suggesting that, see all this sticky stippling that makes the ball impossible to drop. I can't even let go of the damn thing nowadays. We should ditch that and go back to the smooth leather they used to have in the old Gilbert balls and see how much they love the handling of that back then.
Well, the thing is, what you tend to find is that women's rugby tends to live off equipment that's been handed down to them. So most of the balls that they get to train with
anyway
is down to as all the stippling has been taken off them already, and it's I understand where you're coming from on that one, and I think it's Allan, you've put down your glass in you're rocking backwards and forwards.
I do. Yeah, I'm trying not to interrupt anyone, but I want to speak. But I have a slightly different view. Look, there is a definite thing happening outside of rugby in the world that design is by men for men, and women are disadvantaged. Certain phone sizes, seat belts, medication trials are based, hugely in men. There is a movement for things to be designed, and women's hands are on average smaller than men's. We're talking about a group of people, and you're right, there are scrum halves whose hands are smaller than mine. Of course there are. But I suppose we're talking about on average. I think it is and I think I understand the argument about not wanting to differentiate the men's game and the women's game. I think some of your arguments, John, is your middle name Strawman? Because there was a few of them there. But I think it's reasonable. What we're looking at currently is a test of change. They're looking at a small tournament. I think we probably need to hang on to our powder with this one. What I would say is the desire for change has to come from a majority of the women who play the game rather than the men who run it. And that's the bit I agree with you on. And I don't. What I don't know is where this has come from now. Is any change, and we've all been involved in changing our work and things like that. Any change meets resistance. We once had a charge nurse.
It's still like my profession, right?
Yeah.
But
we had a charge nurse that wouldn't let us eat our lunch in the area where we wrote things up, and we had to go off the ward for 20 minutes. And I fought against it. This was a long time ago. Of course, she was right. It turns out 20 minutes away from your work is delightful, and sort of like dropping mayonnaise from your chicken sandwich on the what you're writing up is not terribly professional. Also, there's the whole infection control thing. But I fought against it and actually then did it, and I was like, well, this is quite nice. So I think there's an element that we have to watch, that we're not just resisting change because it's change, but I can understand the reason for not wanting the men's game and the women's game to be different, even though I personally feel we are beyond that. Women's rugby now has an identity where it's strong enough to exist and to shout down any nonsense about that. But I can understand fears that it's not. I understand very much the fears from rugby, from rugby clubs and hand-me-downs, and certainly experience of it seeming to be more often the girls' teams were disadvantaged from being on the main pitch than the other teams. So that I've seen that be an issue. So I can understand that concern and having to buy new balls, etc. But at its core, I don't know if it's that badly intended, but it does have to come from the players.
And just to finish up, what I will say, however, and I will put a fairly big caveat on this, there are 4 men currently discussing this on the Scottish Rugby podcast, and the women who play rugby, women in general, don't need all 4 of us to stand up for them. But we have what tends to happen though is that we've got a small, however small and significant our voice is, we have a voice, and we have been fairly strong on the women's game, and hopefully an advocate of the women's game. And I just think sometimes, well, in my experience, what I have come across and what John has come across and what you Allan and Mark have come across as well, that a lot of the time things are suggested because the poor women need this and that and the other, and they really don't. They can do exactly what they need to do, and they don't need to be told what to do by a group of white men or just old men. But I will move on quickly before I say any more and get myself into any more trouble, because I had plenty of trouble the last time we discussed women's things, but I'm not going to go into that anymore.
It's fun.
I just wasn't expecting the sort of when we started talking about people who are transitioning, etc. I didn't expect the sort of feedback I got on Twitter and X, and I was quite taken aback by that. Anyway, we will move on very, very quickly. We have the last 10 minutes of this side of the pod. Let's get on to Scotland 56, Tonga 0. An 8-try victory with quite a massively changed squad. Gregor Townsend's men took on Tonga at Murrayfield. Tries from Jamie Ritchie, George Turner, who was celebrating his 50th cap, Max Williamson, Duhan van der Merwe, Ewan Ashman scored a couple, and George Horn scored a couple. Who would have known? 4 yellow cards for was it 4 yellow cards for our friends from Tonga, and Samisi Pia got a 20-minute red for having a dangerous tackle on the lower limb of Andy Oyama Christie, who really doesn't need anyone else going near his lower limbs, that's for sure. John, we'll come to you first of all. Surely it was a no-win situation for all the players and also all of the coaches, whether they were going to win. We expect them to win. If they lose, or
Yeah, it's the first time that actually Townsend's suggestion that the performance.
You've cut out, John.
We lost you, John. Nope, nothing.
Have you unplugged your microphone, John?
Hang on, I've muted you. Hang on, there we go.
Is that right now?
Got you now. You know what I did, John? Is I leaned my book with all my notes on my laptop little square pad, and it's been hovering over your microphone for some reason. Maybe it was a thing. Maybe it was.
You were preempting me saying something stupid. No. So I was simply saying that it's the first time I've agreed with Gregor Townsend's statement regarding the result is not as important as the performance, because frankly, USA and Tonga right at the outset was a pointless endeavour. Right, the weekend's game was a pointless endeavour. Our performance was important, and our performance was lacking. And it's funny that someone would say something that is like, "Oh yeah, this is my way of getting round the fact that any team worth their salt puts 80, 90 points past that Tonga side. They literally only met on a Monday. We smashed that team 10 times out of 10. Now, I get we changed our side, but this is the players that we're missing. Yes, there's some very, very key players missing there, right? There's enough experience, enough talent. There's 50 caps going through so many players in that side. They need to be putting that Tonga side away. And that period of time where they didn't score, and I'm sure you'll come on to that in a minute, was absolutely some of the worst rugby we've seen in Gregor Townsend's era. To coin a Townsendism, he's talking about how it's been the best rugby of his era this last 4 weeks. Well, if that's the best rugby of your era, mate, you are absolutely having a giraffe.
You're out in your era.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, Allan, that's the question. Did we get? Obviously, I'm going to ask the question, and I think we've pretty much preempted it. But did we get what we wanted to see from our non-big names, our non-big name players?
I don't even know if we're saying non-big name players, because actually, look, that back row would have been many people's first choice back row. That back row was a full noise back row. Fantastic players. It's difficult, right? Because it's difficult not to see it through the malaise and ennui which I've come to view Scotland with in this Autumn Nations series. I think it wasn't the All Blacks game, although I was annoyed at them for making me hope. It was more the Argentina capitulation, and it just feels like we've been here so often, and it is very difficult to get past that with the current coach. That said, I don't know what would have been a win. I was a little worried. I was a little disappointed, as John has said, with the fluency. But it's Fergus Burke's second start, his first at Murrayfield. It's probably not fair to be too harsh about that.
Yeah.
Ollie Smith's not played a lot of 13, although that seems to be where he's playing since he's come back from injury. I don't know. I don't know what would have made me happy in that game. I think that game was just a hiding to nothing.
Aye, I think so. I think you're right as well. But Mark, we saw Max Williamson and Alex Samuel in the second row. Are we seeing the end of Grant Gilchrist? We seem to have a nice crop of second rows coming through. Not that I ever wish an end to Grant Gilchrist. He's been a fantastic servant to Scottish rugby, but
Gilchrist's been a fabulous servant. But I do think we need to be bringing on a replacement, just in terms of age. I was a bit more surprised that Williamson didn't get more time in a couple of the bigger games, if I'm honest, because I like him, and I think he plays well alongside Cummings, and I think I could see them becoming our key pairing going forward when Gilchrist inevitably retires. I mean, he will, whether it's next year or the year after. It won't be too long, and we need to bring somebody in now so that when he does pack it in, we're not playing somebody that's got precisely 0 caps. But yeah, I mean, I thought Alex Samuel, can't remember where it was in the socials, it might even have been you guys, he was getting a lot of plaudits as well. I thought he played well. But we're only talking about, 4, 5, 13, and that's probably about it that were new players and not top choices. I mean, I wouldn't have picked Jordan at 15 anyway, but he's played there before for us.
I think though Jordan was doing exactly what we asked Tooney to do. To be perfectly honest, on the pod last week, and that was Blair Kinghorn looked dead on his legs. It was time to bring somebody else in. Okay, fair enough. Kyle Rowe could have gone in there, and that was one of my questions. Was Kyle Rowe? I didn't see enough of him on the weekend. I thought he might have run a little bit riot on the weekend, but I didn't. I felt I didn't see enough of him.
I think he took a wee bit of a knock quite early on. There was a massive hit on him and he was limping. I think he might have been managing himself through the match. But yeah, he didn't look like he quite had the top end. I mean, he's rapid, right? Kyle Rowe is absolutely rapid. And you're right, against that kind of, especially when you've got a tiring Tonga backline, he could have caused some problems. But I think it's one of those ones that Rowe was almost on the end of quite a few things, and it was when Scotland were being really, really wasteful. He was the kind of guy who tended not to get that final pass, and at Glasgow those final passes stick, and he goes under the posts.
Yeah.
At the weekend it didn't, and I think there's Brian Galicia's pointed out it was exactly the same as every other game in the series. It was a 50-minute game. We played for 50 minutes, we fell asleep for 30.
Yeah.
Just what happens, that 30 minutes is against a team that are not up to, we could have done, we did do the same against the USA as well. We can't afford to do that against anybody probably above 10th in the world rankings, because they will beat us.
Yeah.
And that's a damning statement going into Six Nations that we should be a contender for.
Yeah.
Although we have asked for more consistency from the team.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're consistently playing for 30 minutes every game. Yeah.
And Allan, Jamie Ritchie, he's not done yet with Scotland, is he?
No. I think he had a point to prove. Gave away a couple of penalties. I know there was a worry that the bench could be penalty machines, but someone like Jamie Ritchie, if he's not giving away the occasional penalties, probably not playing at his best, is he? He's a guy that does play in the edge. So I thought he was pretty good.
He really was. And talking about good players, John Anderson, the player of the match, Magnus Bradbury. Now, I'm going to. You'll know exactly what side of this I'm coming down on. And Mark, I don't know what you got to say for it, but I know that where John Anderson sits. But Magnus Bradbury, I think, has grown hugely as a player since he went down to Bristol. And yes, he's getting a second chance at captaincy of Edinburgh. But I thought he played it. I thought he played very, very well on the weekend. I thought he was there. He was strong. He was big in contact. Now, okay, we caveat it with our entitled view that Tonga, we should be beating Tonga and we should be getting across the. But some of those Tonga boys weren't they feared in hitting people.
They certainly weren't feared at hitting folk, were they? Right. So, Allan, you can maybe take a note of this so that you can bring this up at some future point when I'm or up in my sandbox about something. Bradbury looks like Bradbury's another example of a player who has to get away from the SRU bubble and learn to think on his feet and think for himself and develop himself. He went down south and done that. He looks a vastly, vastly superior player to the player that was the great hope of Scottish rugby when he was up here first time round. He looks stronger, he looks fitter, he looks more sensible. He's still, his breakdown work, which has always been a criticism of him, he doesn't do that, right? But do you know what? There's plenty of back row players that don't do something. Bradbury maybe doesn't need to do that. And if we're going to play Bradbury as an out-and-out 8, which he absolutely could be, he could be a ball-carrying option for Scotland, you need to have probably go 2 sevens around him. You might go Richie and Darge to give that jackling option. It's just about utilising him right. He is a ball-carrying weapon. Let him do that. Don't worry about that. And actually, I remember when Townsend came out and said he's not been picked because his breakdown work isn't strong enough. And I remember at the time being like, well, clearly, yeah, Townsend absolutely knows what he's talking about. Yeah, clearly, right. Now I'm sitting there going, well, why don't you work around that? Because that guy's got skills that very few people in that Scotland team have. So utilise it.
Yeah, absolutely. And last to finish up, because we're at our time now. Now we talk regularly about this player. He's never. He sits on the bench. He's a game changer, and Townsend seems to not use him very often. But Mark, George Horne, 2 tries, did exactly what he said, what we expect George Horne to do, and that is run the cheat lines and give amazingly quick ruck speed. He was a revelation.
Well, yes and no. Because he did exactly what we've seen him do for Glasgow 100 times, and why we were always saying, why is he not getting the opportunity to do that for Scotland? I thought he played superbly well. And the first try, I actually posted on socials that it went from Ollie Smith to Rowe to Steyn and back inside, or no, Ollie Smith to Steyn to Rowe, and then inside to Horne running the cheat line. I said, that's nothing to do with Townsend, and that's all about Franco. That's straight out of the Glasgow paddock. Actually, to be fair, thanks to autocorrect, I said that's nothing to do with Townsend and all about France. But everybody kind of got what I was talking about.
I thought you meant Gregor could get to France, but
no, we have got our own winger that wears a head guard and is quick and is what's the word? I was going to go down the route of a beer beret and a Darcy Graham link, and then just me being the old senile guy that I am, I just lost it halfway through. I'm getting like the American president. I like to just wander when it comes to when I'm talking. You know, I'm developing a weave. But on that, we will continue this conversation over in the Patreon, and we're going to talk about the Autumn Nations, what we can take away from it, and then we'll go on to the hands in the ruck. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. It's great to see you back, John, Mark, and Allan, as usual. It's great to have you here, giving your opinions and your thoughts on things. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. If you want to be a patron, please do have a look on the www.Scottish Rugby Blog, and that will tell you how to be I'll show you how to be a patron. You'll get a little bit more chat from us, and maybe a little bit more language. But for now, thank you to Allan, John, and Mark, and thank you to you all for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Good night, folks.
Thank you. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah, good day, guten Tag.
I said good day to you, sir.
Namaste.
Right.
This is always the awkward bit when I remember trying to turn the various streams off, and I would just be looking awkwardly at Ian going, don't say anything, don't swear, don't swear.
Yeah,
Mark's going to mute us all in a second anyway.
I forgot this time, but I should have
That's
done.
a really smart play, actually. Yeah, we should maybe have done that many years ago. But
I did that last time, and then I forgot the time before because Johnny was driving, but I'm going to start doing that.
Well, when Johnny's on, you should just meet him anyway, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you did to John tonight, Craig.
And I didn't mean it. I vowed.
Wait, to be fair, right? So I've throughout every podcast I've been on for maybe the last year or so, I'm having issues with my browser rejecting my microphone. So that's what it's doing. It's switching it off, and then I just have to mute myself, unmute myself, and then it rejigs it all and brings it back. But yeah, so you muting me and bring me back actually just done the job, but it was very strange. It's annoying, but
I think it was just me being stupid.
yeah,
Anyway.
you were just like, yeah, he's going to be speaking shite about something.
No, I want you to speak. No, not shite. I
think we've crossed. I think we've crossed the international swear line. We're all right.
We are. Yeah, we are well into.
I had checked my time zone, Alan. I was conscious of the swear zone being open.
My phone updated as I crossed it.
Yeah,
it was
I got a
very
text message from Swearyland saying, "Welcome to Swearyland. We're charging you 18 quid a minute."
Well, I have a lovely little indication just up in the top corner that basically says there's nobody now watching us on the live stream.
Yeah,
That means that we're on the Patreon.
I tried sharing the Patreon link for the live stream. I've been trying to do that the last couple of times.
Why don't you do that? I could do it now.
I've done it
You've done it.
on Hugh Dan's fans.
No, on actual Patreon.
Oh, I never look in Patreon. I shared it to the Hugh Danny's.
Right. What I'll do. Right. What we'll do actually is as an action, take an action. This is me being professional here. I'll show you what I used to do in terms of sharing the actual Patreon live stream link, and we can talk that through. But generally, you just share the. Do we still have we do have the private YouTube, which is up in the corner there that I can see.
Yeah.
So we use that as the URL for Patreon, and they're able to access it because you're not sharing the actual link with anyone that doesn't have Patreon then.
So, as per the Yellow Brick Road and the Wizard of Oz, you have just seen, if you're listening or you're tuning in, you've just heard the background and the behind the curtain of us trying to make the podcast work, and all of us slightly older gentlemen try. I did this the last time. I accused Mark of not being very tech savvy, and he actually works in the tech sector, so I'll shut my fuss. But
do we still do this? Let's get a big Brian in. Professional, better mark that in the calendar. Yes, Brian, you are a spotty dog, mate.
Yes,
Although,
Brian.
To be fair, see when you were saying, take a note of this, I was going to tell Mark to take a timestamp, and then when you were going on about how good Marcus Bradbury's become, I was like, no, tell with that, John's been kidnapped, we need to phone the police.
Blink twice for yes. Blink.
After your Trumpisms earlier
John,
on.
you agree with Israel Folau, don't you? Yes, right, John's definitely been kidnapped. Right, phone the cops.
To be fair, most people would just go, "Oh, John's finally having that aneurysm that the blooming Scottish Rugby has brought on." So he's not actually blinking; he's just twitching with stress.
To be fair, you at least have a podcast host that has a chance of telling that apart.
So, you lovely patrons, it's lovely to see you. Thank you very much for joining us today. See, I managed that because everyone's paying for this now, so I actually managed to go from evening to today. Oh shit, I've mentioned it anyway. I hope you're well. We'll move. I don't know if you've listened to the first part of the pod, but we're moving it on from Scotland beating Tonga 56-0. I have to say though, lads, are we? And this is a good. Here we go. Is Townsend slightly correct in a way? Because we're decrying the fact that, and young Mr. Anderson here was decrying the fact that we should actually be beating Tonga by 80 odd points. Are we a little bit entitled? Or because to hold Tonga to 0 points was quite a good feat. However, sorry?
I have stats.
Here we go.
Go, Mark.
Right. Mark's a ball carrier in this.
Let's get Mark's stats out and we'll get on with
scored
it.
8 tries against them. Right?
Yep.
Do you know how many of those 8 tries were scored against 15 men?
2.
Yeah, in the 73rd and the 78th minute, after they put in a combined 110 tackles and played 40 odd minutes of the game
When they met on
with
Monday.
14. And that lag we had in the middle, we scored on 9 minutes, 12 minutes, and 22 minutes. And then we didn't score then until the 58th minute. So 37 minutes of lag between scoring. And Tonga, during that period, were down to 14 men for 17 minutes. And 13 men for 3 minutes. And we did not score. That's bollocks, mate.
Well, that was
We should have been putting 80 points on these guys.
that wasn't a mic drop. That was an iPad drop.
That was an
That's the wine kicking in now for the Patreon side of things.
You're spot on, Mark. You're spot on. We should. So I get supporters going, "Oh, you're so entitled. You expect to beat." Again, this is simply back to the argument I've made countless times about if you want to be a good team, you need to be able to expect to beat teams that are not as good as you, right? You need to believe that in your very bones. Mm-hmm. When a team meets on a Monday and has players who, yes, they're dotted around the world, but ultimately they are not organised. They're not very professional. They have good players, but they are not up to the standard that Scotland desire to be.
They're more of a scratch team than the Barbarians are.
Correct. So if we were playing the Barbarians and the Barbarians, let's say the Barbarians turned up, but they didn't bring in any of the good, ex-players that kind of turn up for the Babas, and they turned up on the Monday and done a wee bit of training, but couldn't really do anything because they still had players coming from all parts of the world, and Scotland proceeded to put that performance in against them, we would be disappointed. Mm-hmm. But then we would go, it's only the Babas, it doesn't matter. The fact that we're not able to put these teams away just gives other sides confidence. Yes. People look at us and go, they're a team that play for 50 minutes.
They're weak.
New Zealand knew they would beat us. Even when it got to the draw, New Zealand knew they would beat us. Argentina, second half, as soon as they scored, they knew they were going to win. They believed they were going to win because they believe simply Scotland are not as good as them. And the evidence is there. We're not. Mentally, we're not as good as them. So that is the difference. And it's back to the Glasgow Benetton argument that I have all the time. If you want to be the best, you need to believe you're the best. And you need to believe you beat these teams. And you beat them every single time. And you beat them well. It's disgraceful that we put in that performance.
If we play against a moderately better disciplined team who can keep 15 on the pitch for at least a respectable period, and then we slump for 37 minutes when they're down to 14, they will beat us. And by a respectively good team, I mean Wales, potentially Japan, certainly Italy. We go to Wales and we have a slump for 37 minutes, they will beat us.
It's not like 2 years ago when we did have a slump for 37 minutes and we won by a point. They will put us away now.
Yes.
And it reminded me a wee bit, the weekend actually reminded me a wee bit, and actually the whole autumn series has had me thinking a wee bit about, do you remember the Ireland game a few years ago where Ireland's, you know how they get refereed like twice in 4 years, they get a refereeing game where someone actually calls them for their nonsense.
Yes, it's an African game was hilarious, wasn't it?
Oh, so funny. Right? I'm sure we'll come on to that. Tremendous work, by the way. Carly is now top notch. Anyway, do you remember when they had injuries and they had yellow cards and they had no hooker on the part?
And we failed to adapt to them.
Yeah.
And we didn't score a point against them, and they beat us. And you're just like, they were all like, "Oh, what a great triumph for Irish rugby that we adapted and we've done this and we've done this." We're sitting there going, "That was fucking peak Scotland. We absolutely shit the bed against a team we had the winning of that day, and we shit ourselves."
Yeah,
that Scotland, we are mentally weak.
Yep. Can I point out entitlement? Entitlement.
Entitlement.
That's what happens when the coach blames the fans for a sense of entitlement when they're believing a coach that says this team's in the best place that they've been since I took over. We're looking great in training. And also, look, expecting to beat Argentina, expecting to beat... What do the All Blacks do? What does South Africa do? What do Ireland do? What do England do? They bloody expect to beat them. Of course they do.
And now all the teams coming to us, they'll expect to beat us, even if they're 20-odd points down.
Yep.
At home as
Because
well.
we will shit the bed.
Yeah.
So just you've just heard from the king of punditry, which is, I don't know, actually, I think the prince of punditry is more, it fits more with the P's.
Prince of punditry.
Alan McDonald is the prince of punditry, and he is the self. No, you didn't get named that self by yourself. It was
McGinty.
It was me, yeah. So, because McGinty,
Well, I'm happy to put a couple of quid in the Doddy pot for that.
Well, the Autumn Nations. What are we going to take away from the Autumn Nations? Well, I think we've already covered quite a bit of it there. That basically, we are now at a point where teams now come to us, no matter what team it is. Even, for example, Portugal or Spain could come up. Georgia would come along and think, actually, we've got a chance of beating these guys, and that's a fairly poor position to be in. But let's try and take it. Let's try and be a little bit more happy clappy. And the boys done good. And what are your standout players from the Autumn Nations? Who have we? I've also got in here what younger players came out. So let's just go in a whole. Let's encompass it all, and let's feed some positivity back to the Scottish rugby community. And I don't like the way you're raising your eyebrows at me, Mark, because you stared in the camera right at me, and I was thinking, hey, easy, Tiger.
He's only so much flesh and bone, Craig.
I know, he's only human. So what is this? Who are the standout players of the Autumn Nations? Are there any? We'll start with you, Mark, seeing as you're giving me eyes across.
They come at me.
I think Ashman has improved performances. I thought for me he did very well in the autumn. I think he's clearly been doing something to work on his darts, and they've been much, much better. And in terms of
he's back to his sail days.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of he scored a couple of tries, which normally for a hooker, particularly if you're from Glasgow, everybody would be going, yeah, but Johnny Matthews scored a try, hanging off the back of a mall where everybody else is doing the work. To be absolutely fair to Ashman, he scored a couple of cracking tries, running good lines and hard lines. I think he was a real standout improvement for the autumn. Yeah, I thought he played very well.
Yeah, and Allan, what about yourself?
Oh, I think the best Scottish performance of the autumn was hands down Holly Davidson. You're laughing. I'm not kidding. I mean, she was fantastic in the game. That try where she thought it was on field, a try, and the TMO said, "Oh, there's no image," and she was like, "No, it was held up over the line. I can see it." For a referee to do that, Argentina might not have got their noses in front of us if the bloody TMO or the referee had done that in that game. Not that they deserved it, but
yeah.
I thought.
Can I just caveat this that what you're talking about is the world's top referee as of the World Rugby awards that have been given out.
I was unaware, but it's richly deserved.
Referee of the Year, Holly Davidson. Pretty damn fucking good, to be perfectly honest. But Allan, I took that away from you. Sorry. What else? Any actual players that stood out for you?
So I thought Rory Hutchinson looked like the player lots of people were shouting that he might be, and I think we've actually now got options at 13 if Shug's injured, which is great. Liam McConnell, obviously, I thought did very well. Limited opposition, obviously, but he looked like a player that could do something against better opposition as well. And it's always nice to see Andy Onyema Christie back in the Scotland jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, what about yourself? Standout players?
I mean, the only correct answer here, guys, is Darcy Ray. So
Yeah,
who
well,
was
that
not
was
nearly, not nearly as shite as I thought he was going to be. But I mean, that's a
I
fucking.
apologise for you saying that, John.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, like it's still a fucking low bar. Let's be honest, right? He was not as shite as I thought he was going to be, but he was still pretty shite.
Oh, he returned to his penalty giving away best against Argentina.
Magnificent. Yes, he clearly heard my feedback in his head and went, "Oh, here we go. I've got to revert to my binge juice days. Where's big Jamie Backey when I need him? We'll do the binge juice 11 and let's go."
He's gone full Marfo. He's gone full Marfo.
He went. Never go full Marfo. Never go full Marfo. Anyway, I actually thought Ray was decent. I agree with Ashman. I thought looked very good. I think there's still question marks about decision making and defence from Ashman, but he's still a young player, and that young-ish, young in Scottish terms, because apparently we can't actually have a player be decent till he's like 29, 30. I thought, it was an interesting one because I think people all had kind of sporadic performances that you go, you were terrific that day. And then there was moments where people, the Argentina game probably put such a cloud on a lot of performances.
Well, can I caveat something? Just interrupt you just for a wee second, John.
Yeah.
Because one of my answers would have been Jamie Dobie.
Yes.
Because I thought Jamie Dobie has been a rising star. Everyone's talked about him from Glasgow. Everyone's talked about how good this guy is, and we all kind of went, "Yeah, okay, we'll see what." But I actually feel, but to caveat what you're just about to talk about, or what you're talking about, John, where I feel Jamie Dobie had went off the boil slightly against Argentina was the fact that we did not use the bench correctly.
Correct.
And he came across as tired, and he started to make mistakes because he was under pressure. He was tired. He was this, that, and the other. And if George Horn came on for 30 or 20 minutes at the end, you would have probably turned around and went, "You know what? Jamie Dobie's been fantastic this Autumn Nations."
I was going to mention Dobie in terms of I think he.
That's because you think he's got hands of silk.
Oh, I've said it since he was 18 in first round flag. He is simply the
That
best.
sounded a bit creepy, John. I'm not going to lie.
Sometimes we have
He's
to.
got hands of silk.
I'm rubbing my knees.
I'm going to have to take time or risk arrest.
You don't need to timestamp it. We're in the Patreon. People are paying for this shite.
Yeah. This isn't the dark web. People aren't paying that much for it.
That's our OnlyFans.
Yeah. That's my new sideline. It's my Dobby special. No, I'm not going there. Wait.
Anyway, move on quickly.
Yeah, Dobby was outstanding, and I think he showcases a maturity, and I think that probably has come from the fact Franco trusts him to play 80 minutes, and it has built up his ability to do so, but he does it in almost a 50-30 split where he goes, right, let's bring on, if Dobby's starting at 9, put him out onto the wing for 30 minutes. He's got the gas to do that. Vice versa, if you're relying on having the other players there, and you're right, using the bench is, I think any player that was sitting on the bench is probably the standout for Scotland, because actually we've now not been associated with some of the shite that's had to be put forward. But Dobby was outstanding. I thought Dempsey was great as well, but that's just me. Probably the standout for Scotland, though, the player whose reputation has been most enhanced by that autumn series is Hugh Jones.
Yes.
That's why he's in the World Team of the Year, because he wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Really played. Yeah.
He's not playing for Scotland. It must be terrific.
I totally apologise. I never put that into the news, and I really should have put that into the news about the world.
We'll do a 30-minute special on it next week.
I will celebrate all about how the South Africans are just adopted everything.
I'll have us standing on chairs inappropriately.
I did have to see. I have to say, I really did enjoy seeing Hutchie play. I thought that was
He was excellent.
He was. But what was disappointing for me is that there seems to be this sort of, okay, we're doing wide all the time and we're going side to side rugby, but the problem is there's an awful. We seem to be making the wrong mistakes, making mistakes or making the wrong choices regularly. When we should pass, we don't. We take into contact. And Hutchie, I think, made a couple of those where he thought, I'm going to go with the ball, I'm not going to pass it. Blair Kinghorn did it as well, but that's a different story. And that try that he was held up over the try line, if he'd put that ball away, we would have had a try out of it. So I think there's issues there.
He's still relatively inexperienced international level because he's not been picked, though, Craig. And being in those situations is at that level is how you improve your decision making, and he's not had the chance. And we come back to the coach.
Yeah, I agree with absolutely. That. But also, I think someone who maybe cemented his reputation was Kyle Steyn. I'm not saying he's the answer all the time on the wing, but his defence is second to none. And I have to say, Kyle Steyn's defence was fantastic. I just think he's not. I think he did a great job, and he's really shown off what he can do. But I do worry that people's attitudes to him have been jaded because of the performances for the last couple of games that Scotland had that he was involved with, because he had to defend. All he did was defend. He didn't get the chance to attack as much as we hoped.
I think, frankly, so I obviously popped up, like you said, Steyn's name 3 times. So, like Beetlejuice, I arrived. If Kyle Steyn doesn't get picked for Scotland, Glasgow fans across the piece do not give a shit, frankly. Kyle Steyn is an exceptional captain for us, an exceptional player. And if Townsend wants to waste him on the wing and wants to waste him in gameplay on his attack, which is exceptional, and pick big Johnny Bravo, fine. That's his choice. Steyn is an exceptional player, showed what he's capable of. And if anyone's doubting his ability, just watch one Glasgow game, watch him attack. He is exceptional.
That sounds a little bit like you as a Glasgow fan do give a fuck, John. That's all I'm saying.
Was that?
That sounds a little bit like you as a Glasgow fan do give a fuck about Townsend not picking Kyle Steyn.
Well,
I agree with you, by the way.
Yes and no. I don't give a fuck about him not picking him, because actually it just means he's available for Glasgow, but I didn't want to be that fan. But I'm now going to channel that fan and go, well, at least he's available.
John's definitely been kidnapped.
We actually win things and Scotland don't. So get it up, yes.
I think if all our back 3 players are fit, and by fit I include rested, because we're talking about Kinghorn as well, right? Because Kinghorn's problem is not that he's unfit, it's that he's knackered. I think if all of them are rested and fit, I think our best back 3 at the moment are Darcy Graham, Kyle Steyn, and Kinghorn.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's the way. And as we said way back before the Argentina game, I do not think Duhan's a bench player.
No.
Duhan should not have been the bench. That should have been Kyle Rowe for me.
He's like Alex Dunbar, but back in the day, he starts or he doesn't play.
Yes, exactly.
And, there's a ton of players like that.
Yeah, beautiful man. Do you think, Mark? Right. So thinking about the Duhan van der Merwe bench pick. So just you brought it up there. Townsend brought him on early in the second half Argentina. Right, you're now shifting probably your best defensive winger to 13, which he hasn't played. Mm-hmm. He has played there for Glasgow, right, but he's not played there professionally in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the beginning of the end of that Argentina game? Because we know Duhan's defence isn't great, and we know Kyle Steyn was probably knackered and out of position.
To be honest, I don't think it was the beginning of the slump. I think we were probably some minutes into the slump, but that was Townsend's move to resolve it.
Yeah,
and that was the flaw. Bringing on Duhan when things are going shit-shaped is not the answer to that question.
Because we all know there was blue in the strip as well, which probably would have caused like he wouldn't have played as well because he would have been confused because it's not England. He would have known that. So.
I would have had a 6-2 split against Argentina. The fact we didn't have a Max Williamson to bring on, and what would Hutchinson had a shoulder injury. Hutchinson had a shoulder injury. What would you do? But I would frankly have brought, well, if we did a 6-2 split, I'd have brought Jordan on, played him at 12, moved Tuipulotu out to 13, where he's not as good attacking, but by God, he can tackle and run the defence. Kyle Steyn on the outside, and I think we would have had a better back line and a better defensive back line with that.
And bring George Horn on with 15-20 to play when Dobie is blown at his hoop.
Dobie was knackered. That's not his fault. It's the fault of the person that's looking at the data from the wee trainer brands that they wear that sends all the telemetry back. And they should have known that Dobie was. Well,
I don't see that telemetry, and I could see it on the TV. You know, that's the point. He was knackered, and we've got George Horn on the bench to pick up the pace.
And Dobby's one of the fittest players. He is one of the fittest guys in that team. You know, his Bronco work at Glasgow is solid. He is not.
He's fantastic, and he plays. You know, he is an 80-minute player, but he's not an 80-minute scrum half because we ask a lot of our scrum halves.
I read this years ago, and I can't remember who. It might actually have been something that was written by Toby Booth, basically saying that in terms of match day, the coach's job is done apart from two things: pick the team, pick the bench, and use the bench. Three things.
Use the bench.
Right.
Yeah. Toonie, pick the team. Okay, it was pretty much the team. The bench, we can kind of debate that. I would certainly debate Duhan. And use the bench. No, that was appalling. That's all he's got to bloody do that day. He's meant to be the cool head up there, up in the gods watching the match, and he did not use the bench. I had a debate with one of the on the Scottish Rugby Reddit. I had a debate with somebody just yesterday about exactly this, because he was saying, "Oh, how much worse can it be? You know, Toonie's done great. It wasn't his fault we lost against Argentina." Bollocks.
No, it was.
It absolutely was. So, if you're a listener, you know who you are, and you also know who I am now, because I'm anonymous.
The thing is, so guys, I think we have to be a little bit careful here, because we are just putting all the blame at Townsend's door. Now, he is the head coach, and that's fine, and I accept all of that. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't go. I think it's at a point now where he's out of our ideas, and I think that the not using the bench against Argentina was, I don't know what was going through his head. What I would say on my side of things is, as an Edinburgh supporter and an Edinburgh follower, we see a team of great players go missing for 20 minutes a game on a regular basis.
Yep.
So I have to say, and I have to join a little bit of the chorus of saying it's not all Townsend's fault. There is an issue with Scottish rugby that Glasgow are starting to buck the trend. I'll be with you in a second, Allan. They're starting to buck the trend a little bit, Glasgow. They go missing now and then, but not as much as Edinburgh. And so we have to be careful on just piling on to Toonie. However, it is time. Thanks very much, Gregor. You've done a great job or an adequate job for us. It's time to move on. But Allan, what are you going to say?
I agree with you. Look, and there's been, Kyle Steyn, Sione Tuipulotu, Ewan Ashwin, they've all come out in the media and said we need to take responsibility as players. That's right. Mm-hmm. Players do. They're the ones on the pitch. Townsend's the factor we can change.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, there's too much in the round ball sport of sack the manager. And I've been a wee bit resistant to the get rid of Townsend thing. But to be honest, now we're doing the same thing, expecting different results, and that's getting on for a definition of insanity.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to go quite geeky here for a second, right? So there's a soccer ball book called Pay As You Play, written by a couple of Liverpool supporters who talk about essentially, it's right in my street. It's your Moneyball kind of style football where it's looking at like player wages, looking at player impact, various things. Looks at they do a very, very interesting chapter. I think I mentioned this in the podcast before about the impact of managers. And fundamentally, managers in sport, by their very definition, are egotistical. They believe they can get something different out of a side that someone else can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the good managers are the ones who do not do that. They suppress their ego and they embrace the idea that, do you know what? These guys are experts in the field. These guys know what they're doing, and I'm going to give them the tools and give them the capability, and I'm going to surround myself with experts to ensure they have everything at their disposal to do that. Now, can anyone, within the four of us, right, can anyone very quickly identify one of the key components we are missing in terms of our coaching group that may or may not be impacting our player group who go missing for 30 minutes every game, and particularly when they're leading? Might that be a sports psychologist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did we have one of those and then we lost them and then didn't replace them? Yeah, we did. Yeah. Okay. So Townsend
John's using rhetorical questions tonight.
Oh, love it. Love it. I know.
I just say though, we have employed a head of performance who goes missing for months at a time, if I remember correctly too. But anyway, carry on.
Well, exactly. So why change the habit when you've got, if your boss is able to do it? Why would we get a sports psychologist? We might even have one, but they're actually just not bothering to turn up. They might be commentating actually on BBC Alba, and not turning up to really important fixtures, a la our kicking coach in the past for the women's game. But that's just the SRU way. The key point here is, like, unfortunately, we're at a point where the manager, it's not about the manager's ability to manage. It's about the manager's ability to set a culture, a performance culture. Townsend is no longer able to do that. He has lost the respect of the supporters. And no matter how much the players come out and say, oh, we're totally doing great, every single Glasgow player there is looking forward to going back to Franco, ranting and raving, because that is where they improve.
Yes.
It's not under Townsend. So the time is gone. To be fair, how much of this is different when we didn't have a plan B? Townsend does not have a plan B. We saw that with the bench. How is this any different to 2019?
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think the psychological side of things, organizational culture. I mean, I risk getting on my soapbox every time we talk about it, right? I wrote an article on the blog about it long before I was presenting on here with you guys, right? I think Tooney did not understand that.
Okay.
I think he has learned about it on the job, which, frankly, for an international coach is ficking out of order.
Yeah.
Right? He should understand that there's 40 stars, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's hard, right? Building an organizational culture is hard. Building an organizational culture in a club environment is hard. Doing that in an international environment is massively difficult. And Tooney has consistently proven that he's not capable of it. He's had 8 years now, predominantly with the same playing group. Enough now. Give somebody else a crack.
But it's only a part-time job, mate. So
yeah, quite. Yeah.
Well, we have probably talked about Townsend needing to go for long enough in the Autumn Nations. I think we're quite happy to park that over there and leave that at the moment and look forward to coming fourth in the Six Nations.
Dream of coming fourth, Craig. Dream of it.
If we're lucky.
Well, it's going to be this whole thing of, Ireland are there for the taking. Ireland are there for the taking. 20 minutes go missing. Yep. Ireland come back from a 35-0 lead. Anyway,
always France. That England team, actually, to be fair to them, they look fucking quite good, don't they?
They scare me. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Alan.
The one thing is, though, a bad autumn often means a good Six Nations. And Alan, I'm back hoping again. Oh my goodness!
Alan, you're mistaken. It was usually what we've discovered is that a good autumn does not mean a good Six Nations. The inverse is not true, mate.
Yeah, there's no direct
Mark,
causation.
don't take away my last shred of hope.
Alan, if anyone's watching the stream, both myself and Alan are on the on one side of the celebrity squares, and the two downward looking glass half empty boys are on the other side.
Poor fucking Pla, man. No way.
Right, we better get this. And Alan, it's time for you to go and get a drink.
One of those large whiskies, mate. You'll need it.
We will, if I can get to it, we will do this.
Hands in the rock, who has got their hands in the rock? Hands in the rock, hands in the rock, who has got their hands in the rock?
Well, it's that time of the podcast where we discuss more about Townsend, I suppose. What's been ripping your net and what's been boiling your piss. What's been shitting in a bag, setting at a light on your doorstep and dinging your doorbell.
Great game.
Where are we going to start? Well, I'll just go round the room as in the celebrity squares. Like, Mark, what is your hands in the ruck this week?
God, I have so many.
Well, let's have one, and then we'll let the other boys go, and then you can pile on with the other ones.
Well, can I start? You probably heard this one from me before, but probably not from the same context. Referees reffing who they perceive to be the stronger team differently from who they perceive to be the weaker team. I thought, in spite of everything, I thought Tonga were really, really fucking hard done by that ref.
Yeah.
If I was a Tongan fan, I'd have been absolutely raging. I can't remember his name, the winger, the 14, that got carded immediately for a deliberate knock-on inside our 22. So there was no risk of a score. Didn't even look like much of a risk of a line break. And to me, looked like a knock-on in the tackle. Was absolutely atrocious refereeing. And I think they were done a disservice by that. I was proper annoyed with that. Because frankly, if they did 15 guys on the pitch for the whole match, or even for all but 20 minutes of it, because the red card was kind of banged to rights, right? That would have been a very, very different game. Very different game. So, yeah, I thought... I wanted to bring it up because I've said it often enough when Scotland are on the receiving end. And as much as I'd like to go, well, it didn't bother me when Scotland are on the winning end. It bloody well did.
Yeah.
It's not good for the game.
Can I do my hand in the rock straight after, Craig? Because it's linked.
Just you knock yourself out, mate.
Excellent. I want to comment on the refereeing performance of Matthew Carley and Ireland and the reaction of the Irish fans, which has been manna to my soul. It's great to see a smaller nation getting absolutely penalised off the park when they deserve it. And those big bad South... I can't even. Right. Oh, how delightful was it to, I commented earlier on that this was possibly the second time Ireland get refereed properly in a World Cup cycle. And it is just the most magnificent moment. And I love all the commentary. Right. This is probably the hands on rock, actually. All the commentary is they deserved every single one of those cards. Probably could have had more. However, the game of rugby has gone mad and we need to really think about rugby because it's broken. No, your fucking discipline is broken. Sort your shit out and you'll not have 12 players on the park.
A
scrum that can actually scrummage straight. You might... that South African pack is going to moor you. But you're not going to concede the other yellow cards. And that red card, like a 3-week ban for that red card, that was premeditated thuggery from Ryan. He should have... It's a 10-weeker for me.
I actually had it on my other list of hands in the ruck, but worth bringing up now. The bunker has to be given the authority to give a straight red.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We said this at the time, didn't we? That's not a 20-minute. That's a straight red.
Yeah,
So I think the only card Ireland fans can legitimately complain about is the one that the South African player wasn't given early on.
Yeah,
That
totally.
should have been a
Yeah.
yellow. For me,
And
that was a
wasn't
yellow. Bunker review kept it yellow. That's what that should have been.
yeah, I agree.
But to offset that, James Ryan should have been a straight fucking red.
Straight
Yeah.
red.
Absolutely no
It was an
question.
absolute torpedo off his feet, tucked arm, shoulder straight to the head. No contest. Get him off.
This is the thing, though, and this is what's been bugging the living shit out of me for many, many years. And especially the last probably 3 or 4, especially the World Cup cycle, is that, for example, Tadhg Beirne is one of the most illegal players out there when it comes to the ruck. He is lauded, absolutely held up there amongst folklore. Of this guy is one of the best players in the world. He's amazing. He's this and that and the other. Now, yes, he is lauded because he gets away with so much of this, and I find it incredible that we're, for me, for example, there's a look at the red cards that were rescinded, but for the South Africans that were given red cards, then they were rescinded. For example, I think what's his name? Not Esbeth. Mostert is back on.
Yeah.
And anyone that tucks an arm, no matter what, is illegal.
Yeah.
And tucking an arm in rugby nowadays is, especially with the speed of the players coming in, right? When we'll talk about Ryan in a second, but also the physicality of the players nowadays. Tucking an arm and going barreling in with a shoulder is just tantamount to an assault now. And I find that they do everything they possibly can to wheedle around it and say, oh, I think his arm's coming round there. No, he's got his fucking arm tucked.
Yeah. I think he's thinking about potentially making an attempt to wrap. Let's just call it a yellow.
Yeah, there's a wrap with his other arm, but his shoulder's in the guy's face. You're like, yeah.
And Ryan basically was doing exactly that. Sorry, Alan, you're looking a bit exasperated. You got something to say, mate?
No, I was just going to say that tucking your arm tucks players up. I mean, that's the problem. I agree with you. No, I'm just exasperated by the referees trying to talk themselves out of red cards.
Yeah.
Look, I get that the ref might not want to give a straight red card and they want to keep the game going. I think that's fine. I think what's not fine is that the Bunker doesn't have the authority to give a straight red. I agree with you.
Can I just say one thing? Referees are governed by a nation, as in when it's you've got your Welsh union referees, you've got your Irish union referees, you've got your Scottish union, and you have World Rugby doing the bigger stuff. These are the people who are saying you need to look at these and you need to try to reduce the amount of red cards. You need to reduce the amount of yellow cards. This is not. I honestly don't think because everybody, looking at nowadays, looking at the amount of cameras and the amount of slow-mos that are available, the only nation that gets away with it mostly at the moment is the French because they don't show them. But every other nation shows these replays. We can all see it. We can all see there's a tucked arm. We can all see there's a ball on the ground. Or we can all see, and these referees are not stupid people. So they are towing a line that they have been given. This autumn, nations, we are going to try to reduce the amount of red cards.
Sesame Street word. Can I caveat that?
Yeah.
Pinardi is stupid. He's an idiot. I mean, this is the guy who witnessed just prior to the series witnessed one of the most explicit knock-ons you've ever seen in your life, and his TMO came to him and went, "That was a knock-on," and he went, "Nah, not for me, mate." And it was like, No, come on, mate. Like, get a fucking grip.
In what way not?
He's actually dangerous. I think he's a really poor referee. And the only chance he's got of getting anywhere in the game is when he's got grown-ups around him. And I thought that about Carly till this series. So there is hope for Pinardi. But Carly grew a humongous mullet this autumn. And, and just embraced the let's penalise Ireland off the park. And I am all in for that.
I absolutely, I think I said to you guys, Carly is very high on my refs I don't like list, close to the top. But I was very impressed with his performance. However, he's got Edinburgh v Toulon in the first round of the Champions Cup and Glasgow v Toulouse in the second round. So let's see what we think of him in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's sure. Allan, what's your hands in the ruck?
Rugby. It's a fucking game, and I never liked it anyway. The only thing that kept my cold heart warm this weekend was the Schadenfreude watching Ireland having a hissy fit at being refereed properly. Honestly, it was just fucking miserable, and the Tonga game was incredibly boring. Craig, I'm so sorry that I inflicted that on you.
Do you think that we are, in fact, a football nation and we should just embrace this now?
Oh, I don't want
yes, sir, I can boogie.
I don't want it because I don't like. I've never been a fan of football, so I've never.
But football guys,
honestly,
fun, mate.
I'm just so fucking over rugby at the moment. I really am. It's like, mind you, at least we're not Welsh, and we're about because Edinburgh are about to take on an Ospreys side made up of fucking people they've dragged off the street because most of the Osprey players are playing against 23 South Africans that want to murder them.
We've got the Scarlets at the same time, so we are absolutely. It's like fucking the URC have went. Let's give the Scottish boys some absolute gimmies this weekend. So if it goes horribly wrong, I'm not coming on next week.
Edinburgh are going to fuck it. Don't worry about it. But it's but you've got they've released Wales have released all their good players out back to France and England, and now they've brought in. Oh, we're bringing in this painter and decorator for Rill to come in at second row, and then we're going to get these boys in. Right? Okay, what about Ospreys and what about Scarlets? Fuck knows, they can sort themselves out.
Can we come back just very slightly? So Wales is a very interesting topic, and I obviously want to piss off our Welsh listeners.
Sorry, Anna Seligman.
Yeah, it's okay. They understand, right? How shite has Lewis Rees-Zammit been since he's come back? It's been fucking tremendous watching that little cocky prick come back and just be big shite.
I'm just really sad that he hasn't put in an enormous forward pass just for the lols.
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment I did think he was going to block someone, and he did.
He did block someone. He took somebody out.
Oh,
yeah. I'm clearly forgetting that's not legal in rugby, which I thought was quite amusing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he didn't get near the park, so I don't know how he knew it wasn't legal.
Right, before we go back to Mark and his many hands in the ruck, and I'll maybe try and take one away from him. I'm going to talk about this again, and I'm going to be a broken record, and it's no John, it's not Scottish rugby fans. Finn Russell, he's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy, but what I will say is everyone needs to settle down with Finn Russell because Finn Russell is the best thing that's ever happened to Scottish rugby for many years. He's the best thing that's happened to rugby for many years. And why are we, we've got all the pundits going, oh, Finn Russell, he's not that very good, is he really? Because, look at what he did with Scotland. Then World Rugby refuse to nominate him for World Player of the Year, although he is probably one of the best, if not the best, tens in the world at this moment in time. And then you've got, he's never won anything. Well, I think Bath will tell you something different. And I think I just feel that I'm getting fed up with this pish about Finn Russell, that everybody like you're looking at George Ford, for example. George Ford, nobody knocks him down. Nobody turns around and says this and that. 1 minute he's the most phenomenal player in the world, and next minute he's a bit shite, isn't he? Nobody does that. Not Scott. Okay, maybe you, John, a little bit, but he's always looked upon as a very, very good 10. Same thing with Geordie Barrett, even Damien McKenzie. Nobody's pulling these guys apart when they have a slightly off game. But when it comes to Finn Russell, it seems like, he doesn't care about rugby, so let's fucking pull him down every chance we get. It's a joke, and I find it just annoying now. I've just got to that point. This guy's going to have this fucking magician, mercurial fucking pish follow him around for the rest of his life.
The best bit about it was the intercept pass against Argentina, which we all kind of looked at and went, oh, mate, really? Yeah. We're throwing that pass? Cool. All right. And we all go, you know what? It did resemble a Finn Russell of younger days. Like it wasn't on, and he threw a stupid pass, right? But he's also a fucking human being, right? And he cannot perform at 100% all the time. You look at all his play. Look at the tries that we scored against Argentina. Most of them were made by Finn.
Look at the no look pass for Dempsey.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, fundamentally, I know these dream teams are largely caught because they're just put together by a committee of guys like us, right?
Take Hugh Jones's name out your fucking mouth.
Yeah, but the bottom line is for Sasha and Ngomezulu to get the Dream Team 10 over Finn Russell is absolute fucking nonsense. I mean, don't get me wrong. Ngomezulu is a very good player. He's excellent. But he had a couple of shaky games early on in the season, right?
He's also undercooked at this level.
He's
he's not quite there yet.
Exactly.
He's really bad.
But the point is, Finn still, because I saw something, was it? It might have been post-Argentina. It might even been post-New Zealand. I can't remember. Somebody used the N-word about Finn on one of the socials. Well, he's mercurial. And I didn't even engage because I thought, I don't even want to engage with somebody that's using that now. You know?
That's up there with Bring Back Vern in terms of just discounting.
Yeah, I saw one of those as well. Bring Back Vern Cotter. But no, the mercurial word is just another way of saying flaky, right? And it's been a long number of years since Finn Russell's been flaky.
I was speaking to someone recently about Finn Russell, and obviously Finn's 33 now.
33.
So, he's in the twilight of his career, right? Mm-hmm. I think Finn Russell could be one of the greatest rugby coaches Scotland has ever seen. And I think he was not going to get the chance to be that because I think he would be really interested in being a rugby coach. But I think the traditional mechanisms of what a rugby coach should be does not fit Finn Russell. He has the ability to be one of the most empathetic, player-centric, knowledgeable coaches we've ever seen in the game. I think he could possibly be the best coach we've ever seen in the game. And to this extent, he knows rugby. He knows it. He studies it. You listen to all his coaches, like at Racing, they always talked about when all the mercurial shit was coming out. They always were, well, Finn's not mercurial. All the stuff that happens is planned because he studies everything and he spends hours studying the game. And just because he looks relaxed, that is the absolute outcome of his mechanisms. That's what he does. He does his best to be relaxed so he can do it. And I don't think I've ever seen a player more resilient to making a mistake, ever. We've witnessed great players crumble when you make a mistake. Finn Russell goes, all right, cool, and then throws the same pass. And it comes off. Second time, it always comes off. He, for me, has, like, Scottish rugby, the problem I've got is his natural lead-in would be Scottish rugby, right? And Scottish rugby have absolutely fucked that relationship with him because of the dad thing, right? So that's not going to happen. He will probably, if he wanted to be a rugby coach, he would go Premiership or France. And then there's too much money involved at that point. We're not going to get him back So if Finn Russell goes on to be the greatest coach rugby has ever seen, Scotland will not benefit from that. And that's because of our failings, because of Mark Dodson's failings, because of our and actually just to completely circle back to right to the start of the podcast, Craig. Gregor Townsend is indeed a person, right? He is indeed a person who's made human failings, right? And I think he's always tried to do his best by Scotland. However, declaring Finn Russell the fourth choice fly half all those years ago when it was a simple falling out that they had, they were not getting on. And that was all it was at the heart of it. There was beers involved. There was discipline involved. However, coming out and lying to the supporters that Finn had not been picked on form and Ross Thompson had been when he was injured is an absolute fuck. He should have been fired that day.
Yeah. Right. Time is marching on, gentlemen. Have we got any more hands in the ruck before we...
Sorry, Alan, did you do?
Sorry?
Sorry, Alan, did you...
Yeah, mine was rugby. It's a stupid game.
Oh,
I
yeah.
never liked it anyway.
Sport, we shouldn't be playing it.
See, I know what I'm doing, Mark. It's fine.
The only thing... Has anybody seen the comments that ex-Wales player Mark Ring made about Holly Davidson?
Oh, no.
Listen, Mark Ring is your drunk alcoholic uncle that should just be shut in the room and not listen to at Christmas.
Sorry. I actually met the guy back in his playing days. I met a lot of the Welsh guys around those times, and I concur. Mark Ring said, I don't think I've ever seen her ref bottle it so much as the crowd is on her back. She's about to have a panic attack. And he posted that on X. Yeah. So I'd just like to say from me, fuck off, you twat.
So I'll come in and just say that to do what she did with the TMO and with that try, that is the absolute opposite of bottling it. That is putting your foot in the ball and saying, I think I've got that wrong. In that situation, with the crowd round about, I got that wrong initially. I can now see I got it wrong. I'm changing my decision. That is the definition of confidence.
Mark Ring doesn't like Holly Davidson, and it's nothing to do with their decision making. Let's be quite clear about this.
Yeah, I wonder what it could be that he's got against the female referee, Holly Davidson.
Does she have really shit boots?
That might be it.
Is that the problem? Yeah, okay. Yeah, she wears really crap boots, so I think we'll have to leave it at that because it's clearly nothing to do with anything else.
No. And the only other thing, and this is a late entry on our secret Facebook, Pete Foster sent me a link. I did ask him to. A quote from Williamson, the CEO of the SRU, saying, "We're in about Sean Everett. Craig, you may not have seen this. We're in conversation with Sean right now, and we'll update you once we've got through those conversations. I don't want to preempt what we're talking about with Sean, but continuity in our coaching group was a really important part of our evolution." Oh, God. And as Pete rightly points out, continuity is pointless if continuity means significantly underperforming.
I think competency
is more important.
And he says, or to be like continuously shit. If they're being continuously shit, surely we don't want to reward that continuity.
Should we make it? Does feel a wee bit like Edinburgh continue to do the but we've got a South African in charge and that's working for Glasgow, so it's totally the same thing. Like what? No, it's not the same thing. No, honestly, I would rather Greg Laidlaw be in charge.
Well, Jesus. Bring it on. Bring it on. Mr. Greig can come.
The man, John. Don't mind Blair him.
Mr. Greig can come along. I'm quite happy with that. But as we've always said about Gregor Townsend, what's the worst that could happen? The last thing I would say is I've got a wee cheeky hands in the ruck, and it's I'm sorry, Wales, you have not invented the a cappella singing to your national anthem. I'm sorry, everyone, like, it was a spectacle, wonderful, but first things first, you had a fucking male voice choir singing along with you to keep you in tune. But we've been doing a cappella Flower of Scotland for at least 3 or 4 years now, so go fuck yourself.
Indeed.
Even the French have started it with the La Marseillaise.
Yes.
So Wales settled in, piped in.
Are you aware that I'm sure I've read that started at Murrayfield as a mistake?
It was a mistake. Yeah, it was. The band stopped, and the fans just went with it, and everybody went, "Oh, it's fucking amazing!"
Oh, this kind of works. Yeah.
There's proper hairs in the back of your neck, isn't it?
Gives you a bit of trouble, I have to say. But anyway, on that note, I think we're all done, are we, gentlemen?
That's good for me. That's been fun.
Yeah,
Right?
go on then. I suppose I'll. How much is this costing for therapy, Craig?
It's. I think what we do is nowadays. I think it's in beer. We'll have a Christmas or a summer get together, and anyone that's used this podcast for therapy can put the money in the pot, and we'll buy everyone beer.
Can I do a shout out just now? Any supporters that are in Glasgow on the 13th of December in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, come to the Clutha. You'll know the one. That's the one the helicopter went through. Yeah, come
Jesus, John.
I was going to say, is that not the one with the helipad on the roof?
Yeah. Come at the Clutha. There is a very talented drummer playing in an awesome band. He might.
John's there too.
He might be my twin brother. You'll find out on the day. But if you're in the town, come and see us.
Steady on, man. They'll get twice as many people as usual. You're gonna have 12 turning up.
Well, I think we are scheduled for about 200 at the moment. It's quite good. Yeah, we've got quite a. There's, I know. You're in a bit of
dick spraying going on there. Whoa!
Precipice of fame here, Craig. So if you don't mind, like, I would prefer if you refer to me as Mr. John, right?
You'll be getting almost as many as our live pod that we did in Edinburgh.
Oh well, I was in Portobello recently, and all I could remember was Johnny's hangover.
I think I've still got the voice note you sent me in the way home from that, John.
I was utterly steamboats. I was not a happy camper, but Johnny was worse than me. And everyone,
you were quite happy in your voice note.
I was good times. I stayed in a murder house. It was really terrifying.
I woke up with McDonald's littered around my hotel room.
Just to be clear, that's the fast food restaurant, not me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I littered them about the hotel room, aye.
If anyone's listening to this and wants to book us for a live podcast in 2026, you know where to get in contact with us. Give us a shout. We will be there, and it will be fucking tremendous.
I need an excuse to have a night away in a hotel and order myself some takeaway.
I literally get dumped
11 o'clock at night.
I get dumped because of the hotel I booked, because it was a murder house, and the last thing I was seeing at the time was like, there's no way I'm staying in that hotel. And by the way, I've got standards. You're dumped.
All I will say is I will definitely improve the podcast's performance in any boat race pint downing competitions.
Ian Hay was poor. Johnny McGinty was poor.
I wasn't angry with Johnny McGinty. I was just disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, I done okay. I put mine away and gave you a chance, but that's all we had at that point. The pair of them had disappointed. They had literally Scotlanded it.
Mark's timestamped this so he can take it out of the actual broadcast.
I was actually writing down murder hotels because I'm beginning to think already about titles for the podcast.
Yeah.
I'll not tell you what it was, but genuinely the window fell in during the night. And it was quite upsetting, but also I was just so drunk I didn't care.
I don't think we'll get away with Entitlement, which would be my choice as the podcast title.
No,
there's no Google hits for Entitlement. I found it. We could be a Google whack with that.
Right, we will call it
Exit
that.
from this nonsense, please.
Exactly. Thank you so much to our patrons. Listen to yourself. You've got an hour and 30 minutes. No, an hour and 20 minutes out of us, for your patron. We love having a chat with you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Allan, John, and Mark for joining us on the pod today. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much, and good night all.
Thanks, folks.
Cheers,
Right,
guys.
folks.